Hey everyone, it's Jeff Young, kinesiologist, and created this video because I know that in the sports medicine, fitness, and strength and conditioning industries, there are a subset of people who believe that deadlifts are bad for your back, that the risk outweighs the benefit, and that you're better off leaving them out of your program design or exercise prescription and choosing other strengthening or lower body strengthening exercises instead. And because I disagree with that, I'm going to explain in this video why deadlifts are actually a therapeutic exercise when you execute them correctly and when they're part of a proper strength and conditioning program. One of the reasons why I'm a big fan of deadlifts is because on this long list of functional movements, deadlifts are at or near the top of the list. They fall under the category of a hip hinge, and they're one of the proper ways to pick something moderate to heavy up from the floor. When performed properly, the hips are just hinging and the back and spine are just going along for the ride while the core contracts isometrically. Deadlifts are also a knee and low back friendly exercise in most situations. They're a knee friendly exercise because when pulling from the floor, the knee is really only flexing to about 20 to 40 degrees out of a capacity of about 140 degrees. So the knees aren't really flexing much. When you pull from the floor, the knees are extending back to a neutral position. While that's happening, your posterior chain, your hamstrings and glutes are contracting, and what that does is help stabilize and decompress the knee. So not only is it a knee-friendly exercise while you're performing it, but it's strengthening the muscles that are needed to help prevent or manage and control pretty much any type of knee issue. And once again, they're back-friendly because when performed properly, the hips are just hinging and the spine is just going along for the ride. And as you can see in this bullet point, most people have a weak posterior chain, and deadlifts are one of the best exercises that exists for strengthening the posterior chain. While there are many types of deadlifts, conventional and sumo are the two most popular when it comes to pulling from the floor. I'll be showing a video within this video of a demonstration of a conventional deadlift, but the guidelines also apply for the most part to a sumo deadlift. Trap bar and Romanian deadlifts are two other popular forms that you see a lot in the gym, and I'll be going over them in future videos. When it comes to ensuring safety and proper adaptation, it's really just a matter of understanding how to manipulate the following variables: frequency, volume, or in other words, how many sets and repetitions per set you're going to perform, intensity, or in other words, how much you're going to load up and how close you'll take yourself to muscle failure, and joint range of motion, or in other words, assessing and determining available pain-free range of motion and a proper start point. To give an extreme example, just to make a point, if we were to lower frequency so much that we're only performing deadlifts once per month, if the volume was so low that it was just one set in a month and only 5 repetitions in a set, if the intensity was so low that we loaded up so that when the set was terminated, it still felt like a warm-up, or in other words, light to at the most moderate. And if once again we properly assessed joint range of motion, determined the available pain-free range of motion, and picked an appropriate start point, then we've just created a situation that is very safe. And the point is that these variables operate on a continuum, and it is the coach or therapist's job to determine proper frequency, volume, intensity, and range of motion to find an appropriate baseline or start point and then progress from there. I included this video just to give a better idea of what I mean by shortening range of motion, or in other words, finding available pain-free range of motion. And while this isn't an ideal situation as compared with performing a rack pull at a gym, the point is that there's always ways that we can adapt. Once again, this is just an example. Here is 2 Reebok risers. So in other words, we've raised the bar about 8 inches from the floor as a way of shortening the range of motion. And as you can see, she's about the bar is about 4 or 5 inches below her knees. And then here, one of the risers is taken away. So now we're starting from about 4 inches above the floor, and the bar is at about mid-shin. But it's the coach or the therapist's job to find the appropriate start point and then work towards the ground appropriately. When it comes to teaching the deadlift, the first thing we have to do is determine if they have sufficient mobility. Tightness at the foot-ankle complex usually isn't the culprit because we just don't need a whole lot of flexion there or a whole lot of movement at that joint. The mobility issues that would negatively affect being able to perform a deadlift would typically be tight hamstrings or a tight thoracic spine. But even if that's the case, as shown in the last slide in the video, we can always shorten the range of motion to within their available range of motion, work on improving mobility, and then increase the range of motion as their mobility improves. So there's always ways to adapt. And then after that, it's just a matter of teaching proper setup, how to pick the weight up properly, how to put it down properly, and how to reset and repeat. And then I've included this last instructional video to kind of sum everything up. The first part of it I've purposely slowed down, and then the second part is at normal speed. I'm going to let the first part just play, and then when we get to normal speed, I'll wrap things up. So before I press play, I just want to make sure that it's clear that the guidelines in this video not only apply to general fitness, but also to medical fitness and post-rehab, and for pretty much every type of knee and low back issue, whether it's patellofemoral syndrome, chondromalacia, a partial meniscus tear, arthritis, and low back issues such as herniated discs, one of the spondies, stenosis. The point is that it's the coach or the therapist's job to find the appropriate frequency, volume, intensity, or in other words, the initial load, and how close you're going to go to muscle failure, which in the beginning shouldn't be close at all, and then the available pain-free range of motion, and then work with the patient or client as a team to progress in small tolerable increments. So with that said, I'll press play so that we can look at this at normal speed. Once again, notice how the first thing she does is she pulls the bar into her shins, and her legs serve as the bar path on the way up and the way down. She's not performing a squat. It is a hip hinge, so she's pushing her butt back into space. She's seeking out a stretch in her glutes and her hamstrings. The reason why her body is moving vertically is because her hips are moving horizontally. Although she's relaxing her spine remains in a neutral position for the remainder of the lift. She's lifting with a little bit of velocity, lowering with control. She's exhaling on the way up, inhaling on the way down, and she's doing a great job of keeping the bar close to her body throughout the entire lift. So this is what it means to perform a deadlift properly. And when performed properly, deadlifts can be part of nearly everyone's program. They're therapeutic in most situations, and they are definitely not a back destroyer. So thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.